Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Platform AI Data Readiness with Trisha Merriam. How you doing, Trisha?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. Uh, Having a lot of good conversations about topics like this one that all kind of relate to this topic. They kind of all relate to each other at this point, don't they?
You did bring this up the other day that there's a collective aha consciousness around the idea of just data and making sure your data is more. Just feels like there's more focus on that, where you could kind of get by with kind of okay data there for a long time, but with the things that we want to do, can do with AI, it's not. You have to fix it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
you
want to
really
use
do.
AI.
Yep. It AI doesn't allow for like broken systems in the way that we've relied on the past. Like, all right, we don't care. Just export the spreadsheet and then we'll re-import it and then we'll like make sure it's clean and then we'll send out that email list.
Mhm.
Like all parts of that, what I just described are not like we're just not set up for it anymore. Buyers aren't responding to those motions. Our internal teams don't like doing it, so they don't. And uh, so here we are. Um,
And
you,
HubSpot does not make it easy to like future proof your data natively. There isn't, we don't have a lot of great native tools to be like, look out for this and fix this whenever you see this.
yeah, I think that's at the heart of why I said I wanted to debate these bullet points that you've come up with. Is should we put all the responsibility on the tools and technology to solve some of these issues? I know we'll be able to do that, and the like AI is going to solve for some of these longstanding issues in the long term. Um, but I like where you're going. So tell us where this came from, and I'll just we're going to talk about three data hygiene essentials today. We've got smart associations with conditional logic, unlimited bulk deduplication, and fuzzy matching with automated scheduling. Where are these coming from?
Those are coming from personal experience, in that just using domain is not good enough for associations for all businesses. I've got one use case is that often on LinkedIn, people are using their personal emails, but they work for a company. So, like, I work for Apple, but I'm using my college email address. HubSpot wants to make it look like I work for the university. So that's one use case. I have a client that I work with that's really high volume, very small, like micro businesses. 1 to 10 employees is probably most of their businesses. And they're not consumer, like it's B2B, but they're kind of acting like consumer, like B2C, just because of who the business owners are. They don't have LinkedIn presence. They often don't have company domain names. And they'll come into the CRM multiple times. They'll come in with their email address, they'll come in with their phone number a separate time, and they'll come in another time with like their business email, like their Gmail, their business email, their phone number. And it's not, it's user behavior that's creating for some chaos here. And then it's really difficult to roll all of those conversations up into a single account record.
Okay.
So associations are important because, like, domain as an overall rule doesn't totally fit the bill. Deduping 50 records at a time, I have never done that. I have never just carved out like 3 days to like hit that button over and over again. Maybe other people do. I have not. So there needs to be a better, more automated way to do that. That's less hands-on. And that's number 3 for me, which is like, go look at this more intelligently. And I know that AI can do this. And then take the bulk of it off of my plate, only ask for my input when you can't figure it out yourself.
Yeah. This is definitely the one that I can get behind. Because I'll like fuzzy matching, you define that and automate. So what and when, right? Like if you can give AI those rules, then these problems start to go away. But let's get into these other two. And so what is meant by the word smart here?
I think what I really want is conditional logic. So maybe you say that if they're look at it by lead source. And maybe for all of your leads that are coming, if they're coming from advertising, they're coming from Google, for example, you can let those be matched by email domain. But if they're coming from LinkedIn, maybe use a combination of something else, name and company name and location or something like that. That's what I mean.
Okay. So we're trying to remedy our shitty lead sources, is what I'm hearing there.
We're remedying for the use case that I work for IBM, but I'm using my MIT email address. And I don't want HubSpot to think that I work for MIT.
And as long as is this, I mean, this has been known for a while, hasn't it? In terms of like, if you can't count on the domain name to create a company record in the right way, then turn that off, right?
Well, that's what a lot of people do, but then they end up with contacts that aren't associated to companies.
Until they need to be?
Until they need to be.
Makes sense.
Well, maybe it does, but what if you are intentionally targeting, these 100 companies and you've got a team that's, working on that? Ideally, you have a way to roll up activity from if those people are coming to your website, interacting with you, doing stuff.
Right. And that's where I'd say the fuzzy matching comes in. Like if we're assuming that we know that there is some information that tells us this person is from Intel, even though the email does not tell us that. Right. So as long as we have that information, I think that makes sense. If we don't, and this is where, of course, all of the tools that people like to buy and, use in questionable ways, in my opinion, to try and fill out that data, which leads to further inaccuracy. I think what I'm trying to get at here is like associations and relationships inside of the CRM, like must be driven by humans that understand like the relationship context. And if we have somebody in there, especially when it's coming from a lead source like LinkedIn, where if they're active there and not via email, then we go get them there. Like that's their channel that they're choosing to engage in. We don't just get to say like, oh, I'm going to grab your email and phone number and then get at you from there, because that's not how you engaged as the human. And so let's say we take that approach and we reach them on LinkedIn. Then we can figure out all the data like in the relationships that we want, right? I think the will to automate associations is confounding to me because of how important it is. Like everybody knows how important building trusted relationships is, but we kind of put that as soon as the words lead source comes into play, like we kind of like put our common sense to bed and just say, well, it's because we have so many that we need to do it in this illogical way. And one of the outcomes that's happening right now, which again should not be surprising, is like the SEO traffic going down. Like the junk is going down, which means conversion rates are going up because there's less junk. Like, why are we surprised by this? And can we help people understand, like, if you don't know these things about the contact record because you don't have access to direct, like it's indirect data, or that's, you know, you got a list from somewhere, or it's something that the human didn't do to get in there, like just quarantine it, like put it somewhere else. Like it's actually not in your best interest to try and do something, you know, with that data. So the smart association is that there is no company associated with this because we haven't confirmed anything about the relationship inside of that company that would actually make it meaningful. We do have enough information to say if it came into our CRM in a way that's meaningful, and like somebody recognizes this person's name from their activity on LinkedIn, we have what we need to go create a conversation that gets us to that data. And that, in my mind, is like strategically smart associations. So I know I'm a little pie in the sky here, but when you look at the data and what's happening right now, it's like, why should we keep solving for these like symptoms of just vast quantities of data that's coming into the CRM in ways that, you know, probably shouldn't be, or has proven not to serve us very well, like previously.
Let me give you another example because I want to keep talking about this. LinkedIn so they have forms that they'll have within LinkedIn, and somebody fills them out from within LinkedIn, where it kind of pre-populates them with all the LinkedIn data. So let's say that this is actually a demo form that's on LinkedIn, and somebody opted in to get a demo from you. They submitted the form. But they're doing it with like company name is IBM, but their email is a Gmail address. So depending on whether you allow that company to be created in HubSpot or not is going to determine on whether that person has, like, you can see the IBM company record and how many contacts are there. But let's say that there has also been other activity from other people at IBM through LinkedIn on the same types of forms. And let's say you're not allowing company associations automatically. How does your salesperson, how do you equip that salesperson to be ready when they get on the call with that person to acknowledge that it's not just them, but they've, like, you've also heard from their CTO 2 weeks ago, and a week before that, like somebody on the product team. How do you bring it all together?
I mean, if it's a demo and it's a hand raiser, like those are the things that require resources. Like if that's active engagement, then at some point, somebody or something is reviewing the context of that hand raise. And if we see company name IBM and then it's not associated to a company, then we try to solve for that. Like by associating them to the company record that exists. If the record doesn't exist, then it's somebody's doing research to see, like, should it, is this a real hand raise, right? Like, that's where I think a lot of people, HubSpot can enable you to ask questions and get more information, which is a lot of what we talk about on the other shows. You just have to want it, right? Like, if somebody comes in with no context, your emails that go out should confirm, like, hey, look forward to chatting with you. Like, I noticed this thing about this thing that you did. Like, hey, you've got a Gmail. It's really important that we get your business email, like, ahead of this demo, right? And that happens in the one email, and then in a message on LinkedIn, right? So I think there's an opportunity, and this is where it just shifts the burden a little bit into the place where it should be in terms of managing human to human relationships, where there's enough nuance, especially when you've decided that LinkedIn demo forms are going to be a channel for leads, you know about this problem. Like, it's guaranteed. So how do you solve it before stuff starts coming into the CRM? It's like, okay, when this happens, if this, then that, right? If there's no company, then this. These are the questions we ask to get to the company, to get to qualification, right? So that's where I'd go with that. And again, I think a lot of what we can do right now is help AI. And this has always been the case for humans, though. Like, if you ask, like, you've been in those calls where it's like, well, did you win that deal? And it's like, no, we're going to keep talking. It's like, did you ask them, like, to close or to, like, move forward with the contract? Did you ask that question explicitly? Like, yeah, not really. It's like, okay, well, they can't say yes if you don't ask for the yes, right? All of the data that we want, most of the time we're not asking for it, either to the right people or in the right ways, because we're awash with data. Like, we have so much data, and we just need to get better at determining what the data means to us, like, first, so that it's not on every single human once they get on that call to want so much, like, active preparation, that might misinform, might put them in a bad position. So conditional logic, like you meant, is kind of like, so is this the same thing as fuzzy matching?
No, it's not. It's not. It can be a couple of different things. But let me say back to you what I think I heard you say, which is that that call research, really, that responsibility really lies with the sales team before they make that call, and they should be exhaustively searching HubSpot for insights into what kind of activity has come from that account before they reach out. Whereas as you know, Casey and I have talked to a couple of salespeople recently about how they're using AI. And one of the top takeaways I've had from talking to them is that AI is just allowing them to follow best practices more consistently. Like, everybody knows you should do research before you reach out, and you should do a thorough recap when you're done. And a lot of times, especially if they're SDRs, they're just like call to call to, like there's no time to actually do a good job of that in between calls. And so I know in the example I gave you, there's 3 people from IBM and HubSpot, but they're not linked together through a company record. Maybe one of them's on a company record and the other 2 aren't. And now we have AI. I want to serve that up on a platter for my sales team because they're busy. And I think you're saying it's not ready.
I'm saying they cannot be too busy for this specific part that activates the entire damn CRM and AI. Like, and this goes up to sales managers and sales leaders, like if your team is in a position where they can't take a 5-minute look at a CRM record and like understand the context very clearly, very quickly, right? This is where the concept of unified customer views come into play. Like you can enable your teams to like they're going to get context way faster than AI in these moments where I've got a call in 5 minutes. I have all this context in my head. I've got this initial notes, but if I just add this layer of this unified customer view, like, man, now I'm asking questions differently, and now the calls are going differently, and it feeds on itself because I know which data is missing. I'm not asking the same questions that have already been answered. All these things like this, and I think that's where it's activated. Like, you are put in the best position to be human, like I know Caleb was talking about, when you don't have to like when you don't click the prepare for meeting button and then have to comb through it, like to see if you trust it. And one of my favorite examples, one of the few times I actually think that going from the company perspective like helps, is the target accounts tool in HubSpot. There's no faster way to understand that you don't have all the contacts associated in the way that they're supposed to be, right? And it shows up very quickly, and that's one of the places where I think it's usually a quick win for most companies if they activate that tool, because it gives you that snapshot. It's like, oh, I know, but it's always somebody that says, oh, I know that's not true. Like, I know, like our deal value should be $1 million, not 100,000. Oh, why is that? Oh, this contact is not associated in the right way, and that's the contact with the deal, right? But it generally takes a human at this point to catch that. Otherwise, AI is like, oh yeah, $100,000 customer, like do this and this and this. Meanwhile, like there's a super hot $1 million deal like happening right next to it because things aren't associated. And I don't know how to educate in a better way on this. And this is one of the challenges of like HubSpot, like association labels and associations are so new, like comparatively. They've been clunky until very recently. And it's a different way than how the other systems do it with like lookup fields and, all these things. But if you get it right, it's so much better because it's actual like associations that can make sense to the team. So that's why I always like definitely like parent company, child company, and contacts within those situations. I'm always trying to coach into like that responsibility of getting those right needs to be on the sales team first, because they know more than anybody else about the relationships involved and the nuance. Now, if they do it enough manually to say, we can fuzzy match like based on this stuff, or even conditional logic based on activities, this is where marketing and sales gets really powerful if you can work together on stuff like this, because you can use their website activity, their social activity based on what the salesperson is telling you to say, oh yeah, if these things are true, like we know like 95% confidence that we can match this thing. And now the sales team doesn't have to do it. We don't get to skip over that part though, which is what we were doing when we let the domains do all the work like for us. So you fit on sore is not right the word. I just think this is one of the biggest opportunities in most HubSpot portals. But it requires going beyond one contact, one company, one deal. Right? We just don't live in that world anymore. Most companies, I think. And we've been preventing those contacts from entering the CRM, which means we don't know how to manage them effectively inside of the CRM. But we want to have everybody and their brother that works at Intel. If we can get them in there, it's like throw them on the company record. Let's do better.
Agreed. We all want to do better.
So, unlimited bulk deduplication. I understand if this is one time unlimited. If we're having to consistently do this, then how is this not a band-aid? Like, why are we having to dedupe so much?
Because if you have forms on your website, that is user generated content, and people do all kinds of kooky stuff. And so I think that there will always be an issue. As long as you're allowing forms on your website, there will always be an issue. If you're really high volume, it's a bigger issue. And if you're low volume, maybe it's something that your team can manage, no problem. But cleaning it, especially if you're high volume, cleaning it up once, you're only good for a little while, and now you have the same problem all over again.
Okay. I accept that answer. I think of the moments where I've seen people blame Zoom Info, like bringing data into HubSpot constantly, and then they blame HubSpot for not having the tools because they just keep bringing like duplicate data in. The integration between HubSpot and Salesforce has been a common, reason for that. ERPs, accounting system, like all the integrations are where that's where I first went when I saw this. And again, it's not just the systems, right? It's like a marketing team that's not allowed to manage these other systems, and they just got to like make sense of leads and send them back to the sales team. So it's not necessarily an easy problem from that perspective, but I do agree because I used to have this conversation about forms, like openness, like being accessible, right, to customers and prospects. Like the more accessible you are, the more likely you're going to get spam, like, form fills and stuff like that. So if that's why we need this, because we don't want to put a bunch of restrictions up or 20 fields up, right? Then I think this makes sense.
Yeah. And like the example I gave you, high volume, people who may or may not have a business email domain. So they come in once to the website with their Gmail and their company name. And the next time they come in with their phone number and their company name. And then sometimes you also get them with their business email domain and their company name. Like I tend to see that happen when they actually get on a demo. Like the first two are just the hand raisers, and then they come in for a demo. And now you have 3 records for this person.
Right. And again, like if we're at demo stage, like if we're at hand raiser stage, like, and I think you can start to leverage AI, like some signal that based on first name and last name matching, right? Like, okay, let's do something about this,
Mhm.
right? Even there, if it's a demo, like I want the person leading, whoever's in charge of the relationship at that moment is the best person to do this dedupe or merge in a lot of cases, right? I think the merge, especially, um, in that there's different activities. I think it's gotten a lot easier to do this recently, but like when I hear admins getting called up to merge records on behalf of this customer facing team, it's just like, it makes no sense. Like there's so much nuance related to those records.
Mhm.
It puts the admin in a terrible position to do it wrong and then just get hellfire, like, uh, thrown upon them. Whereas it's probably like a 30-second task. Like if the person in charge of that relationship just says, oh, okay, clearly this is the right record, right? Um,
What if it's not a demo situation? Do you think it's fine for all of those records to just live in the CRM, not related to each other? Also, I see what you're saying about this. Like I've seen this happening like once the customer's been onboarded and you continue to have this like they're a customer now paying you money and their stuff is still in 3 different places. So that's just sloppy. Um, and I have never been in an org where I've seen anybody like really take the initiative to clean that up. But anyway, putting that aside, the people that don't make it to a demo, there's a lot of them. And in some cases, there's 3 of them per record. You think they should all just hang out as multiple personalities until somebody actually raises a hand?
um, no, again, I think whoever's responsible for the relationship in that moment, and in that case, it, if marketing owns, like if they need to be sending marketing emails or triggering marketing motion or even reporting on those records from a
Yeah.
marketing perspective,
Yeah.
like it falls on them to use tools that I think are already here, which is like, hey, like these 3 records, probably the same person, right? And I think because we don't take those moments, we never get to the heart of the problem of like, what's wrong with our messaging where this person is coming in all sorts of ways. Because often you can get to the heart of like, whenever they come in from over here, like it screws everything up. Whenever they come in through over here, like we get good data, right? And you can start to make comparisons on that. So I do think this is where, again, related to a lot of the value path, like life cycle stage conversations that I'm having right now, like the importance of knowing where they are in their journey as they are in your CRM is everything, and making less assumptions about it, like to the point of just because we have data, and even if it's demographically like matching to what we want, it's still audience because we have no record or no signal that says they are intentionally engaged with us in any way. So they all sit in audience, right? If they're an audience, marketing, marketing owns that, right? And I think as we create these, like, and this is basically a customer facing team working together. When they're at this part of the stage, you're responsible for maintenance of the data. When they're at this part of the stage, you're responsible for maintenance of the data. And usually that maintenance relates to how well they can get their job done, right? So, like, this is where the incentives are just off, um, in terms of just an admin's going to come in here, or now AI is going to come in here and save the day from all of us having to, maintain our own data sets. And I think this is it turns into a huge distraction because we don't actually solve the initial problem. Like maybe we stop doing that ads motion because it's just causing so much and like the volume's not even worth it. Yeah. So like unlimited and bulk, right? If we have clear ownership over these records, then we should be doing this kind of stuff every day. And then is it a 5-minute activity every day that if 10 people are doing it, all of a sudden the database is always clean, right?
But we have AI now.
Right.
I mean, there's a whole lot of merged decision making that AI can do perfectly well.
Right. I think AI is what makes it a 5-minute activity.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's way more. Nobody wants to do it, so it just builds, and you look for bulk opportunities to handle it. I think initially, like the bridge is AI turning it into a 5-minute activity, and then when it gets it right enough times, then it becomes okay. AI handle it, and just like these are the situations where you should be notifying me, like when you're not sure if it's a dedupe or a merge or a delete or yeah, because I the data quality tools in HubSpot, like they make a lot of this visible, right? But even I, like, if it starts to go past the page, I'm like, ugh, it feels like so much work, even though it's very clearly like, oh, that first name, last name is obviously switched. But again, we come back to like the moments where it's actually not switched, but because they're both first names, like first and last name are both a first name. So like AI has no shot in hell, like to get that right on its own. The human probably doesn't either, unless they're clicking into records and, you know, seeing past emails. But even as I talk through it out loud, like AI can see the past emails. Which name did we address this person by? Like, right. So I think the bridge is like asking AI to do this. Because whether we use AI or not, I think it's the cadence and the consistency that we do it at, which ultimately saves most of the headache, like related to this activity.
And when you say use AI to do this, what does that look like to you? Where are you going to do this?
I'm wanting to do it in HubSpot, like for sure. I think like there's AI behind most of the data quality tools. So it might not be AI like sending you a notification, but I'm sure agents can be set up to like trigger in certain situations. I do think this relates to like this topic of like how fuzzy is too fuzzy. Does your organization even know? And if you don't know, there are opportunities to have AI decide for you, but also the humans got to be in the loop somewhere to make sure ensure that the matching is correct. Because I like when I see fuzzy matching, I can see the duplication like warning use case, but also other records, like associated records, like in the CRM. And there's probably opportunity again. there's innovation to be had with association labels, where if the first thing we do is these first name, last names match, we just associate those contact records together so that we can't see them separately, right? Like, is that an opportunity to make it easier for, the human that keeps looking at that to solve it at some point? Like, I know I've had experience where it's like I see the thing 10 times and finally on the 10th time I like make the fix, right? I think until we make that fix, like, it can be hard for AI to know the difference between right and wrong on these.
Mm-hmm.
And what I just described is something I often do. Like, if I think the merge isn't as clear as I want it to be, I will associate the contact record so that like it helps me later so I don't forget about it. And I think there's probably lots of tricks like that we can like add in or ask AI to add in.
When you say that you'll associate it in a way that'll remind you later on, what are you talking about?
I mean, just having them associated. So like if it's in the contacts, like sidebar, as an example, or if I'm on the company or deal record and I see it there too. But also that's for like, we could add an association label, like merge ?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And now all of a sudden we can segment the whole database. Like, that is that the first thing we should do with fuzzy matching, right? Like, this probably is a match, like match ? is the first label, and then we develop other, workflows, both automated and human based, to go through these and put them in the right place. And if we can define this, like, that's the thing that AI is super good at, like iterative activity. It's like, okay, this is true. Now we can look for this. Okay, this is true. Now we can go deeper, right? Which I think human problem solving like goes that route. It's just a lot of work, like, to look at all the data layers. So what do? We just like go down the rabbit hole, like try to figure everything out. And then we fix it that one time and then we realize we got 10 more of those. And like, yeah, maybe tomorrow.
So you get a new client and you get on board and they've got 3,000 duplicate accounts and 20,000 duplicate contacts. They're creating new duplicates at the rate of, let's say, like 45 contacts a day. What do you kind of like order of operations? What do you do first, second, and third? To try to like fix this future based.
Right. I mean, we have to do root cause analysis, like, at some point. How you do that, I think there's various ways, but this is where understanding the flow of data and how it relates to the data model that your business needs. I had somebody reach out yesterday about NetSuite and HubSpot, and I had to ask, like, because there's contacts and companies in HubSpot. There's also contacts and companies in NetSuite, but sometimes there's customers too. And she was saying customer. And when I look at the HubSpot native integration, there's no customer on that list. So I'm like, can you define customer for me? Right? Because she's wanting to update it in a certain way. And those are the kinds of questions, like, we have to make space to ask those questions. Because it could be like, how do we get out in front and like prevent these duplicates, right? And then if we get to the way, like, oh, it's just that's how many form fills we get, and that's the way it is. Like, okay, then let's deal with that. But so often it's like, where's the gap in the system design that's causing this to happen? I do think, like you mentioned earlier, about how they can go through the process with all these different, versions of the contact, like billing, billing situations, like invoicing scenarios. I think can be just as bad here. Where this is like the challenge is matching the data models of the systems so that the system that needs the let's say the sales contact version of this person like has that, and that connects to the other system that has the billing version of that contact, and we know that they're synced in the right way, but we should not have two versions of that record in our same system, because then we're sending the same person same two emails or whatever. Right? So yeah, getting to that data model, like 95% of the work that I do is getting that part right. And that solves not just for like data maintenance problems, but the conversations that you get to have, like when that part is clear, right? When we don't have questions about how data flows and why, like all of a sudden we can have more constructive conversations. So that's get your data model right, folks.
Get your data model right, but I still believe if you are reliant on just a ton of user-generated content, you need something else. That's what I think.
That's fair. I still think you can use the data model in innovative ways to like quarantine this stuff. Like you just have to create these scenarios where this is where I go in the CRM to review questionable data and solve problems. This is the place where I know the data is trusted, and that's where the unified views are. And like if we don't solve for that, then all the data is always questionable, and that's what leads to lack of adoption and stuff like that.
All of that.
So was that a healthy debate? I'm not sure.
I don't know either. You didn't totally convince me. I understand. I like the idea of quarantining the data. I'm trying to balance what you're talking about versus realities of sales leadership and their expectations of how their team spends their time. And they often do not want their team working on hygiene issues. Or they're never like, I'm always going to lose the fight of asking them to prioritize that, I feel.
Yeah, this is where I go to the unified view goals. Like an association label is highly valuable when it allows everybody to understand the relationship of this thing to the company, especially the human, like immediately, like within 30 seconds, without having to click around, without having to scroll around. Like association labels enable that. That's the kind of conversation. Like it's a relationship value task, not a hygiene task at that point. Right. And it's obviously a nuanced conversation because there's lots of baggage to unpack about this is we need our people selling. Like,
Mhm.
I want the people that are selling to understand the relationships better than everybody else. And if they can't take time to do this part, I don't think they do. Like, and then we have new people come in and they don't have to do it either. Like, this is how it goes wrong, right?
Mm.
Because inherently they need this value from the CRM. They don't get it. So they call everybody, anybody and everybody to get the information. They take up half of the morning meeting on Mondays to understand context, right? And it's because our teams didn't have the habit of maintaining data,
Mhm.
right? So I'm sure this won't be the last time we chat about this. But I think it was a good discussion. I think some value was had, definitely for me, and I hope some of the people watching too.
If it was clear cut and there were completely easy answers, everybody would have this done already.
Yep. This is why it's AI data readiness. Like, a lot of this is human based problems that we haven't solved in 25 years, and we're probably not going to solve it. So how can we put AI in a position to solve it for us? Until next time, Trisha, I hope you have a wonderful holiday this week.
You too. It's nice chatting.
See everybody next time.
All right. Bye.